On this episode of ResiWeek, we wrap up 2020 and give predictions for 2021. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek episode 256, COVID Silver Linings.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
at Lona, the go-to provider for AV signal distribution and control in corporate, higher education, and residential spaces.
Welcome to this special episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and on this 2020 wrap-up show, I am pleased to be joined by three of my closest friends. First, we have my sister, Heather Sidorowicz. She's the president of Southtown AV in Buffalo. How you doing, sis?
I'm doing just dandy. We're almost there. There's a finish line. We're about to cross it.
So close. What, 3 more working days? 2 more working days?
We hope.
That's my response as well. Then we have this is the family show. We have Uncle Richie. He is the principal of Fregosa Design. How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing good. Mellow West Coast greetings. It's still California weather out here, so still sheltered in place here, but other than that, all right.
Well, that's good. Last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Joe Whitaker. He's the CEO of Thoughtful Integrations. How you doing, bud?
Good. I am amazing. I mean, it's
just in general, or
in general. I mean, it's great looking for 2021. Kind of, we'll have COVID 20 coming to remind us that 2020 is not gone. Yeah. So, but I'm glad to be on the show as always. Another year in closeout with same people as last year, so that's fine.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to do today is, as I mentioned, we're kind of wrapping up 2020, doing a wrap-up show. I want to talk about a couple of things just before we get into predictions and all the fun stuff where we look into our balls of crystal or our glasses to figure out where 2021 is going to be. I want to look back at a couple of things that we talked about on last year's show and see how it panned out, because we always try to think back to what we did. And this year, thankfully, our wonderful producer, Mitchell, put this together for us, so we didn't have to make it up off the top of our heads and be like, yeah, we totally talked about that. It was great.
We have to fake it like we usually do.
Yeah, we're not going to fake it this year. We're going to do it properly for once in our lives. Heather, last year, your kind of takeaway for 2020 was that biophilia was going to be huge, that we were going to start to pay attention to our homes and our lighting and how that affects our lives that we live at home. How do you feel about that today?
We know that we'd be binge watching and bread making. We'd be spending more time in our home than ever before.
Is that going to be your new TV show?
I was right.
Binge watching and bread making? I would watch that.
New TV show, binge watching and bread making. I'm in. I'd watch that.
Right. I mean, so we've been spending way more time in our homes, as have our clients. And so therefore everyone's upgrading. And it has been a little bit about wellness because, I mean, all brand new companies have come into play. Pure 365 is one that, has not been knocking on my door to talk about, not just do the AV, but why not water filtration and air filtration systems? This is stuff that we were not really speaking of last year. Of course, we already still have our audio and our video or visual. So yeah, I think that biophilia, maybe not by name, but we call it wellness, but wellness is such a big, broad term, is definitely here to stay.
So let me ask you this. Are you going to continue to focus on this or increase your focus on it going into 2021?
I think that, I'm Buffalo, New York. So we're about 3 years behind California. So once Rich is doing it solidly all the time, then I'll plan for 3 years that we'll be doing it. So really, we're just doing lighting control at this point. People are just going really? I can do that?
I can control it from my phone.
Yes, well, I continue to. It will be more of a peripheral piece until it becomes something that in our market. But I do think overall this will continue to be a something. I mean, just look at how many people or houses you walk into that even have the Amazon. What's the show, right?
Yeah.
So this is something that didn't exist before, and I've been told at houses before of like, she will never be in my house, which is hilarious. And now you have all these people adding it, and then they're calling each other. You know, my nieces called me from it the other day so they could talk. You know, it's going to become, before you know it, you'll be checking to the doctor that way. You know, do I have tonsillitis? So it's going to incept us in one way or another.
I like it. Rich, last year you were talking about consolidation, the growth of Avixa and the Infocom community coming into our space, how creative businesses were going to have a tough time going forward, and that you felt better going into 2020 than you did 2009. So I think I know where the last part of that kind of plays out. But as far as consolidation, Joe was laughing his butt off. As far as consolidation, the potential of the commercial side of the world coming to play in the residential space, and creative businesses having a tough time. How you feeling, bud?
Well, you know, it's much like I was told years and years ago that the iPhone and those tablets would never make it into the conference room. You know, Uncle Richie, the Oracle, has spoken. You know, it's a natural evolution. Just the growth of the consolidation in our aspect of the industry meant that the manufacturers and the integrators were going to start heading towards the middle. We've seen the growth of, you know, we saw the growth of ISE. We hope to see the growth of ISE as it's going. And I was fully expecting Infocom to show that trend accelerating. I really expected to see more of those discussions happening. And, you know, during the course of the pandemic, I mean, the trends were going there, and then March hit. And then March, you know, kind of slammed you slammed the brakes on everything. However, if you look at what's happening now, everybody's zooming from home. Everybody's bringing the conference from home. You know, WFH has replaced WTF at this point. So, you know, it's an acronym that is, you know, everybody knows it at this point. And we're not going to return to how it was. It's companies are learning. You know, I mean, even in residential, you've discovered that you can get a lot more accomplished with a large team by handling these meetings virtually or over a call, and not requiring everybody to drive an hour out of sight, or you know, there has been involuntarily, you know, a shift. It's been that seismic shift in how moving forward we are going to operate our businesses. I think that good integrators learn the importance of remote diagnostics, learn the importance of remote monitoring, the ability to effectively sell how not to do a truck roll. You know, the good integrators. The other ones we're going to find out pretty soon are either going to have taken that advice or not. And as things open up, we're going to see, you know, again, that shift. You know, and I think I do mean it. You know, 2008 caused, you know, quite a bit of a culling of the integration community. And 21 is going to provide that in a different way. And it's not because the projects aren't there. It's because it's going to cause a lot of companies to have to rethink how they're going to approach their markets. Because there's going to be increased competition. I mean, at this point, you know, you've got to figure out how to get maybe a smart TV in there and a camera and a microphone, and networking. What's going to happen is that companies that are IT centric are going to have the foothold in there, not the TV guy. It's going to be, right now, the new hero is the Wi-Fi guy. And if you don't have Wi-Fi guy as part of your technology services, you're going to get elbowed out in the residential space. It's just, it's been inevitable, but now it's at the forefront of people's thoughts when they start thinking about their technology needs. They can live without TV. They can't get away without virtual school. They can't get away without calls into the office. So, and it's an opportunity. I mean, I really think that it is going to be a really good opportunity as we come out of this for companies, which led into taking commercial technology and adapting it to the residents. It didn't. We didn't get into the home the way that I expected. It still got in the home, and I think that's what we're seeing is, and I think, I mean, if you read the commercial side of the publications, there's a whole lot more articles these days, using resimercial in their jargon as opposed to how we're using it in ours. And so
it's fascinating how Wi-Fi is no longer invisible. You quoted $1,000 plus for a Wi-Fi system a year ago. You were told, get out of my house, don't talk to me again. And today it's, how quickly can you be here?
It's interesting to me how on the commercial side, myself and quite a few others have been preaching this whole, hey, you've got to focus on IT. I'm not saying you have to be an IT provider, but you have to focus on IT. You need to boost your IT skills. When we started talking about it in the residential space, there's a few players who go down that line. Haggai from Access Networks is definitely one of them. But there was a lot of people who were like, yeah, no, you can use this off the shelf stuff. It'll be great until March. And then they learned really quickly that, it's not going to work. Joseph, standardize or die. The smart home needs standardization. Without it, the CI channel is at risk from Google and Amazon. Do you stand by said statement?
I do, but it's funny. This is a year later, so yes, I do, but in a different way. Well, just like you said, March happened, February happened. Then it went into April, and then it went into May, and then it opened a lot of eyes to a lot of things. We know, and Uncle Richie was right, that the Avixa crowd would take a heavier look into residential, and residential would have to take a heavier look into standardizing what those deployments are, because once again, like Richie said, remote management became king. You couldn't do anything without it. Standardized remote platforms, whether they were, embedded, built in, or things like Parasol and OneVision, and all those really started playing a part. But then those standards started being recognized in a different way that I predicted, not only by CEDIA, who now we've got the cable and infrastructure technician, which will be like the first ANSI accredited standardized certification, and the CIT come in, and then you look at CEDIA's Propel program, which Open Arms brought Amazon and Ring into. I always say, if you can't beat them, join them. So we got that going for us. But then if you look over at the UK side, the Amazon and Ring play isn't as big as it might turn out to be in 2021. But, over there in the UK side, you've got a big embracement between the custom channel, CEDIA standards, and Google Nest. That's huge over there. So both sides. So instead of what, I originally thought 1 year ago, that we'd be talking about standardizing on the base of competition to the big guy, it's kind of actually come together. Building platforms, it's kind of like, if you want to be part of the discussion, you have to join the biggest guy in the room. We also had an election year, so you got that going for us. That the biggest way to become
you guys
part
had
of
an
the
election?
club. Yes, let's
Really?
just leave that there, though.
Huh.
But if you want to be a part of the
Who knew?
conversation, you got to get in with those lobbyists, right? You got to get in with the big guys. So CEDIA, Amazon, I kind of look at that as the same thing. If you want to be a part of the discussion down to the consumer base, you have to get in some way with the names that consumers are actually watching or listening to. I know it's crazy to say, but there you have it. So yeah, I stand by it. but it's totally not what I was thinking. Like I was thinking of it, on the industry standardizing to combat. I would have never thought in a million years that that type of partnership to become part of the conversation was even possible last year.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, very good. All right. Before we leave this topic, I will give you what my prediction was and how I feel it's potentially valid. We'll see. I said last year that we will not recognize this industry in 5 years. We as an industry need to be better business people and provide services that our clients are asking for and be aware of outside influences to the industry. So I would argue, and maybe y'all will disagree with me, but I will argue that if March and let's say April didn't help you realize that you are not as good of a business person as you think you are, as Heather's kind of shaking her head and Joe and Rich is ignoring me.
We all know the story. So my father started this business and I purchased the business for him after working for like 17 years, whatever it was, 14 years at that time. And I never felt like an entrepreneur. Like I never felt that like I didn't build it from the ground up. I do now. I feel like I got my badge. My Girl Scout badge. Yes.
The sash and everything.
Living through this, failing, picking yourself back up, figuring it out. It's yes. Processes is huge. And we use more processes now than we have more processes because of the pandemic. And we took some of that time to start doing some more things. But yeah, it's you're right on that one.
I really hope that, and of course I did not want this type of event to happen to force this issue. But when I talk to, if you're not aware, I talk to dealers every week. It's kind of part of what my Monday normally looks like. If you as a business owner or a manufacturer didn't go through this process and look internally at what you're doing and how you're doing it and look at everything from your accounts receivable to your marketing to how you go to market to product relationships to manufacturer relationships, that's whether you got a new certification or not, I don't think will be as important going forward. Again, if you're in management or as an owner, as using some of this as a litmus test to what you're doing wrong, and hopefully, learning how to outkick your coverage a little bit and see your gaps, because this was that eye-opening experience for a lot of people to realize that, yeah, we can't last 2 weeks with no work, which you should be able to do that.
If you didn't understand cash flow last year, I bet you did this year.
Bet you do now. So yeah, I'd argue that it's correct-ish. It's kind of a downer because of the situation, but on the plus side, hopefully you've been able to take away a lot of stuff from this. I'm in agreement with
silver linings.
Yeah, COVID silver linings. There's the name of the show. All right. Speaking of silver linings, what was before we get into predictions, we'll wrap the show with predictions. What was your silver lining of COVID? Did you have one of this year, where typically when we do wrap-up shows, we've been doing these for a couple of years now, we talk about the big story of the year. I think we all know what the big story of the year is. It was Joe getting his own show on AV. No.
Yes, no, that was not.
What's the big takeaway, or what was the high point of all of y'all's years? Like the way I brought that Southern back. All y'all's.
All y'all.
All y'all's.
Now you're talking like me.
I think that for me, the feeling is, and at least the conversations that I've had with others is, if you've made it this far, you're gonna make it. You need to consider that. I think too often we have it's always been the running joke that I've had at trade shows, is that if you ask somebody how their business is doing at a trade show, oh, fantastic, you know, you've got 99% of the attendees talking about how everything is great and they're doing the biggest
$1 million
jobs.
projects.
They only do X, Y, and Z. And much like 0809, this year helps bring a sense of honesty, kind of a universal honesty in the industry.
Absolutely.
And it's odd in a male dominated industry to use the words vulnerability and to accept and seek assistance, help, guidance, advice. I did, because you have to, if your business matters to you. This was a pretty significant introspection, like you just said, Matt, and I found it's when you can rally the most, when you really discover who the people who have said are your partners are really your partners.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to say and use, the partnership and brand loyalty and this, that, or the other when, those orders are coming in. But when you're, when your AP is starting to age and your AR is starting to age, and you're all in it together, it changes the conversation. And for me, it brings it back to how I started. There's that ability to just kind of say, hey, we're kind of all this in together. We're all figuring it out. We're all still learning. And, it's a good lesson. And I think it's a good time for industry leaders to show vulnerability. I mean, I've got some integrators that I work with, and I work with, some that aren't that small, that they had some very public airing of their laundry, that things aren't as great as they were. So, but again, that's all of a sudden those things start creeping up. But the thing is, it's not just our industry. And so for me, it all comes back to humility, integrity, and vulnerability in your business, and hopefully coming out better on the other side. And that's where I see that as the opportunity to be able to work together, because it is changing. And the only way that you're going to change successfully is together.
Yeah.
Amen.
Joseph.
I don't even know what to say after listening to Uncle Richie, man. I'm telling you.
That is the problem. We almost have to make him go last at everything.
He hit so many, so on point with so many things.
It's that constant waxing of poetic that he does.
Yes, but that retrospection, it was,
unless it's Jimmy who's on, and then I just talk over him and he sits and looks at me.
But in all honesty, it was, the early part of the year was just another year. Let's be honest. There was no differences. Everything was just chugging along as it should. Then it all happened, and it made everybody look at things a little different, and honestly deal with things a little different. So a lot of things that a lot of people did were almost therapy to themselves to try to figure out how to get through it. Where to roll the dice, take a gamble, where to pull back, where to kind of change your preface of how you were either approaching, acquiring, or closing business. There was so much of that in a very short period of time. And it's taught us all lessons that I don't think we're going to let go of very quickly. I just put something on Facebook today about how, London and the southern area of UK is in tier 4 right now. Because they've got their kind of second generation mutation of COVID-19. And yes, I do believe they should call it COVID-20. It's not going away. And we've realized that. But in that time, you talk about highlights and lowlights. I had a bunch of extra time on my hands. So what did I do? I podcast every day. Why not? You ain't got nothing to do. You're locked in your house. Let's figure out a way to change the game, the way it works, the way it's the mechanics of it. To the point of, did stuff with Origin Acoustics and just got out there and got crazy, because it was a moment in time in our industry where we realized how important what we actually do inside the home is. But at the same time, we were all in a you have nothing to lose moment. It's all gone. Like you're going into people's houses and all that for weeks. It's gone. You have nothing to lose, right? Roll the dice. Let's see what happens. And it was a very, like Uncle Richie said, talk about humility. Just when you're at a time when you're kind of seeing the best business post housing market crash, 2006-07, and then the slap in your face doesn't come from the housing market or the economy or any of that. It's Mother Nature rearing her ugly head saying, you thought, let me change it. But we saw a lot of people really step up and change the things they were doing into a model that could be recession proof, could be housing market crash proof, could be pandemic proof. It was that eye opener that we all needed once again, just like 2006 and 7, that just because you're doing great doesn't mean that something can't roll along and just take it all away from you, unless you build a mechanism to kind of combat that, to be able to survive those kind of things. Me and Heather years ago actually had this conversation of when 2006-07 happened. And I was huge in residential at the time. I mean, we were doing multiple 20,000. We were doing the thing Richie was just talking about, multiple $1 million jobs, 20,000 square foot houses for everyone, in Central Texas. And then the housing market crashed. And what did I do? Me and Heather had this talk a while back. I brought in 50% commercial, bar, restaurant, hospitality, small hotels, and saved my company. And then this happens, and guess what? All those bars and restaurants I had quoted, they're gone. Crap. And then so you have like a revision, that constant learning experience that business owners like us and Heather and Richie, we all know, and Matt, we know these things are going to happen, but we're never prepared for them. So on that note, to all y'all, before we pass it to Heather, just because Mitch said the sound was amazing, I'm going to toast to all you guys who survived. And here's to hoping 2021 is better than 2020 was.
Are you going to pour some out for the ones that didn't make it?
I'm pouring a little out for the homies. No, that's good stuff. Sorry. If I had had something.
Don't make a mess of that carpet.
No,
I don't want to hear about it.
that's right.
Heather, my friend, this was an interesting year. Did you find a silver lining there? Did you find something that?
So I've always believed, and I've probably said this on the show before, that in our current world, men, because they just had that opportunity, had the opportunity to build the house, to build the frame. And as women now who get to be in the industry, we get to remodel it. So we get to kind of change some of those rules that have been fundamental. I've always believed that culture played a much bigger part than the world gave it credit for. And I feel like this year I was really justified in that. Our numbers are on par. I actually think they're a little bit up from last year's numbers. And we did that with 3 less months. So we did 9 months of work. We did 12 months of work in 9 months. And I really, truly believe the only way we got that done was because we did not furlough anybody. We took care of them. We made sure that everybody was all right. We learned that it's so funny to sell video conferencing all day long and never really have used it before. So instead of 1 meeting per week, at that point, we changed to 3 meetings a week, which I think is like a new math equation. 3 virtual meetings equal 1 face-to-face. It's just a different feel. We got to know who their dogs and cats. And, I started every meeting with, tell me one good thing that's going on in your life right now. And so we pulled, when everything opened back up and these projects came through and still needed to be done on time, they were there for the other side to make sure that we could push forward. And they've worked their tails off to make sure that we're going to close strong. So culture is queen. I won't say culture is king. And yeah, I think that it is human. It's what Rich said as well. And what Joe said is, growing up in the 90s, we were robots. It was about how many hours could you work? And when I worked in like a cubicle farm for a hot minute, and it was about who left last. It was like a badge of honor. Working 8 hours a week was appreciated. Today, we're finally realizing 80 hours a week, you're failing. It means that you're not working smart. You're not taking care of things. Family is important. Being there for your children, understanding that they need you too. It's a huge shift, and I really hope my Christmas wish is that we take that with us. That even though we're all virtual, we continue that connection that's more than just, hey, I do big jobs and make lots of money. It's, hey, friend, I need you, or what did you do in this situation? Katie McGregor started this female yoga group, and I've never had girlfriends in the AV biz, ever. And I've been doing this now for almost 19 years. And so we've been doing yoga and hanging out, and we had a happy hour last week. And I feel like for the first time in this industry, I have an AV girl gang, as well as just my guys. So yeah, it's there are definitely silver linings.
I was looking at this show, and we always know what's coming. And Mitchell starts prepping for it usually long before I put anything to paper on it. And this was the question that I knew had to be asked, but didn't really know how to answer it. And the thing that kept coming to mind and that kept happening through the whole month is, my family dealt with some stuff in late October that bled into November. And the number of people that reached out to me through the community, the number of people just in general, in our work world that reached out was dramatically different, right? In a normal course of a year, we see each other at shows, we see each other on the podcast, we, text occasionally back and forth. I send Joe pictures of me out in the woods. Think that one through before it gets weird in your head. But we do all these things, and I don't want to say that our friendship was less at that time, but you've really discovered some close friendships through all of this. And we've had people who have reached out just to say, hey, how you doing? How has your week been? And I think that's the biggest, kind of to blend a portion of what all three of you said, was that there was some humanity that grew through this. And I really hope that maintains. I hope that stays, because I keep hearing, both in the resi and on the commercial side, that, if as things get better and get better, hopefully going into the spring, that we're going to see the biggest, commercial AV spend starting in March. We're going to see the massive boom of, residential installations that'll come off in the spring and the summer, as all of these projects that have been shelved for a year kick up. And I hope that both we as industry people and hopefully our clients take, or at least remember what it was like in September, or for us right now as we head into lockdown on Saturday, that we remember those moments of like, hey, how you doing? How are the kids? How's life? Not just, hey, I need another X number of dollars from you this month on your account. You haven't bought enough from us. I really hope that continues and that gets better. And we've talked for years that the industry is built on relationships, but a lot of those have been superficial. And I really hope, and sorry if that offends those of you who are superficial, you know who you are, or we know who you are. Sorry, I'm not going to get away from this one. That one's going to cause me trouble. I know it. Send your hate mail to Matt@AVNation. But I really hope that that's part of what we take away from this. That's kind of my takeaway. All right. So before I get hate mail for that one,
I'm glad I was muted, because I was laughing pretty hard.
I bet you were. The superficial thing, it's real. We know who they are. We all know who they are. They probably know who they are. All right, Heather, let's kind of trying to wind this sucker down so we can all go home. And so Rich can get on with his day because, well, California time. Um, what is your goal? What is your vision? What is your prediction for 2021? What do you think it's going to look like?
I'm going to start with prediction. I think what we'll continue to see is this. I'm trying to think of the word. Like I'm thinking synergy. I'm going to go with smash up of that residential and commercial world, because all these companies that swore that you could not work from home have obviously been forced to find out that you could. And so that's going to become a thing. So I'm really curious to see how that tangibly changes the home. I find it really interesting. I've done like a very informal survey of where are people working when they're working from home. And it's not often in the office. They're working from their dining room table. They're working from this place or that place. So I wonder I wonder what will happen with the home as new homes are built and what people are asking for. It might not be one office. It could be two spaces. So I think that smash up is going to continue. I think we might see businesses give some type of stipend to make sure that they're getting the right Wi-Fi, the networking, that will continue to trend. And just as on the commercial side, what I call the hybrid conference room. So it's not that you have to have all 10 employees at that meeting. They can be 5 can be in the room, 5 can be without, and it has to work as if they're all together. That will continue to trend.
Very good. Uncle Richie, do you have something that you can add to that conversation? Or
I think Heather's spot on. I think one of the conversations that we may not want to have, but will continue to have, is that unfortunately this might not be an isolated event where a shelter in place occurs, where kind of out of nowhere we will have to revisit this process. This is not, I would love to say this is a one and done. I don't believe it will be. I think that, again, I was talking about that seismic shift, and I think that it is absolutely part of the conversation going forward in this technology sector, which is we're not doomsayers. However, we want to be your technology advisor. And in the event something happens, we want you prepared for it. And we want you to be able to just pick up where you left off. What is going to be an interesting accelerator in all of this is going to be the change that we're seeing from people leaving metro areas and going to rural areas. That is going to be a huge trend over the next 3 years. I don't think it's been written about, but I don't think we fully understand what this is going to look like. Because you have tech that was predominantly in major metro areas, was focused because had to be in office, had to be in meetings, had to perform this work there. You now have, and there are several companies that have said, we're going 100% virtual, period, from here on out. Now, if somebody doesn't have to live in San Francisco, in Metro New York, in Dallas, in Chicago, in Miami, and now they can find a place to go where they keep their income from when they were living in San Francisco, New York, Chicago, and Miami, but they're able to go to areas that are still a value proposition. Not that it's free money, but that is a whole lot of buying power that allows them to operate. And so I'm kind of excited for the integrators in those smaller communities, because they're going to get the opportunity to see projects that they didn't before, that they'd have to be located in some of our areas.
We're not going to live in Buffalo. We're going to get so many people.
Everybody's moving to Buffalo.
Well, we're about to be the home of the Super Bowl winner, so.
If Josh Allen keeps playing the way he's playing. All right, Mr. Joseph.
It's just interesting listening to these two, because you talk about some where I am, technically Texas and the Midwest, we're years behind you guys on the East Coast and West Coast areas. So listening to you guys and the crystal ball, it does resonate. So this will be one of the first times that I could say the crystal ball kind of matches. I've always been a live-in rural area. That's always kind of been my thing. but years ago, convincing my better and smarter half, Sarah, that who's a city fan, that rural is a better choice, has been a battle for many, 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 many years. When we first got together, we were over in the city. But now, you reverse that. You talk about rural area compared to the city of St. Louis, which is nearest to me. We can right now go to a restaurant. We could eat in a restaurant. We can actually, I think our theater is open. Our theater is open. That's right. I'm not playing.
Really?
I'm not playing. No, right out here in Wentzville, outside of St. Louis, our theater's open. I'm with Richie. There's massive amount of value to that. But when you shift population density, you take away that luster. Just throwing that out there. So if you're in the city, please stay there. Leave my little rural area alone. Stay over there. Keep your germs over there. But no, in all seriousness, I do see a lot of that. And, in history, in sociology, we know these are true facts anyways. This happens repetitively. It doesn't matter if the reason was, economic downfall, world war, these things, they happen. This is how populous growth happens anyways. It's no different. My crystal ball in our industry is kind of unique though, because I'm lucky with some of the people I deal with. I've got MasterCard's headquarters is here. CenturyLink's headquarters is here. My business partner's wife works at the headquarters for AT&T down in Dallas. And what Richie was saying about, the virtualization of jobs is, used to, you would only see this in call center employees. Virtualization of call center employees has been going on for, a decade. However, now you're starting to see people from the director position up forced into virtual. They're not going to the office anymore. You know why? They're important. I'm not letting you in this building and you're going to get that and die. This is a serious thing. People are realizing that water cooler talk is great only for team building skills. And the minute you take the drama out of water cooler talk or, office strife or all that, you actually see a boost in productivity, a boost in overall morale. There's things that they're realizing that we kind of should have already known would happen organically when you start taking that out of the mix. I hate my boss is not a big of a deal when you don't have to see him or her every day. That's a real thing, believe it or not. So, I see virtualization taking on an entire new, holistic approach. And what Heather said, I'm already talking to people at MasterCard and CenturyLink and AT&T about how that little, the company paying for that virtual office, you're talking about Zoom rooms and huddle spaces taking on a whole new meaning inside the home so that they actually can be conducive to holding a meeting. You look at some of the builders like KB Homes, Pulte, Syntex, some of these big builders that are national, they're already promoting the building a work from home, school from home room into their building plans. The paradigm has shifted. Hopefully you out there, watching ResiWeek are accepting of this. But not only accepting, I hope you're watching kind of the barometer of it so that you could be part of the equation, part of the conversation, and actually make this part of your revenue. That's a kind of big deal because this one pandemic is not the end of it. We've had geneticists and other people, playing God for quite a while. This is what happens when you do that. When you start playing with genetics to come up with a cure for something else, you might create a couple, pandemics, flus, and new cancers that we've never heard of along the way. This is going to be our next couple of decades, I think. So be prepared to start building some of those commercial, residential, indoor living at home and entertaining at home and cherishing your family at home and not at restaurants and movies and concert venues. And it's not over. I'm not being doomsday. Just like Richie said, I'm not being a doomsday prepper, but start embracing that because that may be one of the things that will save your save your company, feed your family, keep your employees employed, moving into the future. It's we're in a shift, guys. Embrace it to be part of the solution and don't become irrelevant.
I have a new job idea. We can become, or somebody should become a virtual coach. So it could teach people things like put your camera, because we've been talking
Yes.
about it for 9 months now. Put your camera here. I mean, I can't believe when I'm on really fancy high-end webinars and it's still the CEO of some billion-dollar company and he's not wearing a headset. His microphone's terrible. So yeah, there's a new job for somebody.
And Heather, you hit it. That's why I decided to get rid of the green screen. I'm green screened out, and I left a spot right over here for my CDA retirement trophy. It's like it's gonna go right there.
That's a great segue to thank you, Joe, for your 7 years of service.
It's been fun.
Thanks for the fish. Now get out.
Exactly. I'm
right,
gonna watch that movie tonight now.
There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap it up real quick. I don't really necessarily have a prediction yet. We've been busy. What can I say? But I will say that I think that this year has afforded a lot of us the opportunity to look aggressively at other business models, look at other opportunities. And, Heather, I've talked for years about, diversifying and how heavily both of our companies and Joe's as well have played so heavily in both the commercial and the residential. And that has helped through this. I know for my own company, the fact that we have an IT division saved us through March and April and May, because that's all we did. And most of it was corporate. I think you're going to see a combination of more companies, either, I should say, get into one specification, one area of specialty, or they're going to become much broader. And you'll see AV companies that are doing sinking everything or anything to capitalize on the opportunities that may be coming down the road.
Just advice-wise, know your wheelhouse and play within it.
Oh, I love it when they don't, though.
Right?
It's more opportunity.
Make sure you
for
have
me.
experts in your area before you say yes off the tops.
Most definitely. But I think I think that 2021, pandemic notwithstanding, is going to be the time where we realize who's around to stay, both in manufacturing and in integration firms. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch what happens, because there's a lot of companies that have kind of floated by, who, may have over leveraged. And then there's a lot of companies that have taken this time to, really focus or find a couple verticals that they find to be really good for their bottom line. And I think we're going to continue to see a shakeup of the industry. So that is all I have. Who owes me money? Oh, yes. Yes, 100%. Sorry, it took me a second. Oh, that's an inside joke that none of you will ever understand. Which I realize is terrible for podcasting and
It is not super
internet and
fun
radio.
for those people.
No, not so much. Not so much. So the inside joke is something that we're not talking about. Nice try.
So if you want to know the real answer for the inside joke, stay tuned for the first of the year ResiWeek, where Matt will tell you the inside story for the inside joke on why money is owed.
Why money is owed. Yeah. But that being said, let's wrap this up. Thank you all for joining me. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, happy Christmas to the UK folk. Yeah, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever. We're here for you. Heather, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Southtown AV, where can they do that?
Oh, just Google me. Do you want
just
to say
Google everybody?
Just Google me. I know you don't. It probably doesn't happen to you, but I want to say sometimes when someone's like, "Do you really know what you're talking about?" I want to say, "Could you just Google me?"
Yeah, I play that card too.
I've never
Southtown-
done that, but I will now.
There you go. SouthtownAV.com is the company website. I tend to be a little bit sillier over on Twitter, tech_chi, CHI, as in a balance between technology and life.
Very good. Thank you, sis. Uncle Richie, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Fregosa Design, where can they do that?
You can put my name in the Googles and things will show up.
Uncle Richie.
You know, I still have to find.
I think you want to use his full name, though.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at @rfregosa. You can find the company at fregosadesign.com. However, as I say on all of these shows, the best place you can find me, I hope, would be here on AVNation TV, here on ResiWeek, AV Week, or as we go into our 8th year with my partner and good friend Steve Greenblatt on our show A State of Control. But most importantly, visit me here. Please support our sponsors. That is Uncle Richie's Christmas wish for one and all.
Congratulations on your new certification as well. I saw that. Don't think I missed that.
What's he certified now?
I am
he's a
one
stick
step
fighter,
away. Yes, I have.
Like wax on, wax off.
All of that.
Oh, I love that.
Hopefully,
Great job,
2021. Hopefully, 2021. Uncle Richie looks good in black. So the younger one just got his black belt, just passed his black belt training.
Aww,
so now the old man's got to catch up.
And Richie's been telling me for now 2 years, Joe, you should start working out again and doing that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm lazy. but actually, my New Year's resolution is to kind of start, doing that again. So
To drink all that alcohol on your desk?
God, it'll be gone by New Year's.
I want a picture.
All right. So that right there is Mr. Joe Whitaker. If you want to connect with him or connect with Thoughtful Integrations, Joseph, tell the people where they can do that.
You can always find us on Facebook at Thoughtful Integrations or any of the other little social media things out there at Thoughtful Integrations. And, now I would say the number one place you could find us is at AVNation at the Thoughtful Home Show. That would probably be your 100% best place to find us. And to good old producer Mitch's joy, we're no longer going to do it live. We're actually going to pre-record it to kind of fit into other people's schedules a little better. And Mitch says me doing anything live is it's a nuclear bomb waiting to happen.
I can't imagine.
FCC sit outside the door. No, but seriously, yeah, going into 2021, I would advise everybody the best place to find us obviously is going to be, at AVNation or at our company's social media things. The only way you'll be able to find me on any of my personal stuff is if I actually know you and you're a friend. Otherwise, no, don't want you. Bye. Peace out. It's 2021.
So if you want Joe's personal stuff, just hit me up. I'll hook you up.
The amount of people who have dirt on me is amazing. So
friends like this, right, Joe?
That's right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining us, not only today, but for the entire year. We do a lot of these shows, and I appreciate everyone who listens to us. Thanks to Mitchell, the producer, for putting up with me. I'm not as bad as Joe, but I'm annoying in my own way. We all know it. Don't lie. That was too quick, Heather. You were supposed to pause. Just take dang it. All right. If you'd like to connect with me to get Joe's personal information, you can hit me up on Twitter at Matt D. Scott, pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by avnation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of all the shows with all of the verticals that we cover, including Uncle Richie's with Mr. Steve Greenblatt, Joe's, Tim's AV Week, everything, the social shows, all that stuff. When you visit the website, take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you support them and check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this final episode of ResiWeek for 2020. See you next year.